Good morning, I'm Trevor Elton.
And I'm Elizabeth Herr. Here are the top 5 things to know this Monday. Number 1, President Trump is on the attack, lobbying new attacks overnight at Democrats conducting the impeachment inquiry after a second whistleblower emerged.
The president accused Speaker Nancy Pelosi and House Intelligence Chair Adam Schiff of treason for their handling of the investigation, saying they should be impeached. The attorney for both whistleblowers says the second person has firsthand knowledge of key events related to the president's dealings with Ukraine.
Number 2, a major development from Syria, where U.S. forces are withdrawing from the border with Turkey.
Yeah, they're clearing the way for a long-awaited Turkish offensive against the Kurds in Syria. Critics say the U.S. is abandoning the Kurds, who were crucial allies in the fight against ISIS. On to number 3, one of the suspects wanted in a deadly mass shooting at a bar in Kansas City, Kansas, is now in custody.
Javier Alatorre was arrested Sunday. Hugo Villanueva Morales is still at large. Both are charged with 4 counts of murder in the first degree.
Last night, family and friends gathered to remember the 4 men who were killed and 5 others injured during that shooting, which apparently stemmed from an earlier dispute at the bar.
We head to Dallas for number 4, where there are new details after a witness in a high-profile case was murdered.
28-year-old Joshua Brown was a key witness at the murder trial of former Dallas officer Amber Guyger. Well, Brown was gunned down over the weekend. He previously lived in the building where Guyger killed Botham.
Our Dallas station reports that Brown was also the victim of gun violence last year outside a strip club. No word yet, though, if this killing is connected to either case. Police say they have no suspects. A reward is now being offered.
And finally, number 5, the so-called subway soprano, whose underground performance in Los Angeles went viral, has made her public debut.
A week after being both an unknown and homeless, Emily Zamorka appeared at the grand opening of a Little Italy district in L.A. Zamorka sang the same aria was performed when she was first spotted by a member of the LAPD. She was a little bit nervous, but when it was over, Zamorka said she felt grateful for the opportunity.
Eventually, I did touch your spirits, and I'm so glad about that I could touch your hearts with my voice. Thank you so much for all of this that's happening right now. I really thank you. I'm so overwhelmed.
Well, Zamorka may also have a record deal in her future, and 2 GoFundMe accounts have raised more than $95,000 to help her get back on her feet financially.
We've got much more to talk about coming your way.
Get your soprano voices warmed up because it's Monday and it's Morning America. All right, it's Morning America.
It's morning, and it's Monday morning.
It is.
Yes.
We hope everybody had a good weekend. We hope maybe, like Janae and Kenneth, you had the day off today.
Yes.
That would be great. Get some relaxation in.
Like?
If not, either way, we're going to get you informed here.
Yes.
All right, so we want to begin with the biggest story. President Trump now facing a second whistleblower. They came forward to corroborate the first complaint at the center of the impeachment investigation.
Overnight, the president fired off a series of tweets taking aim at the Democrats conducting the investigation, saying Speaker Nancy Pelosi and House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff are the ones who should be impeached. ABC's Inez de la Cuatara joins us now with the new details from Washington. Inez, good morning.
Good morning, Trevor and Elizabeth. Well, President Trump is lashing out at House Democrats leading that impeachment inquiry, calling for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and House Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff to be impeached. This as we're learning that second whistleblower has already met with the intelligence community's Inspector General. Overnight, Democrats applauding news of a second whistleblower coming forward.
We are tremendously dependent on people of courage stepping forward.
ABC News was the first to report that the legal team representing the first whistleblower at the heart of that impeachment inquiry is now representing a second whistleblower, an intelligence official with firsthand information about the president's efforts to push Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden and his son. And that could spell trouble for Trump, who has repeatedly tried to discredit the first whistleblower for not having direct knowledge of his phone call with Ukraine's president.
He got his information, I guess, second or third hand.
The White House is pushing back. It doesn't matter how many people decide to call themselves whistleblowers about the same telephone call, a call the president already made public, the press secretary said. It doesn't change the fact that he has done nothing wrong. Republicans now struggling to defend the president's latest calls for China to get involved.
The president asked China to investigate.
No, they're not, George. Come on.
Why can't you answer yes or no? Do you think it's appropriate?
I don't, because I don't think that's what he did. I don't think that's what he did.
So, but it was right there on camera.
But there is a small yet growing number of Republicans who are taking on Trump. Senator Susan Collins calling Trump's request for China to get involved completely inappropriate, though she's still reluctant to weigh in on Trump's dealings with Ukraine.
I don't want to prejudge the evidence. Plus, not all the evidence is in yet.
And today, the State Department's George Kent is expected to be deposed. Kent worked on policy in the Ukraine, but Secretary of State Mike Pompeo tried to block him from testifying.
Well, and as we know already in Washington, like things go a mile a minute, but this is especially busy since the impeachment inquiry has been firing up. And this week, there's a ton going on. What are we expecting to happen on the Hill?
That's right. So you've got two other State Department officials who are expected to be deposed. You've got the former ambassador to the Ukraine who was removed by the Trump administration. She is expected to testify at the end of the week. And then later this week, you also have some of Giuliani's associates who are also expected to be deposed.
Not to mention the 9 breaking stories that I'm sure will happen during the week. Inez,
No.
yeah, and I'm sure Inez will have us covered. Inez de la Quatara in Washington, D.C. Inez, thank you so much.
Thank you. And we now have an update on Senator Bernie Sanders. He is back home in Vermont recuperating after suffering a heart attack. The 78-year-old presidential candidate is taking his first weekend off in months following an emergency procedure to open up a blocked artery. Sanders raised $25 million in the last quarter, and he says he expects to return to the campaign trail soon and still plans to take part in next week's Democratic debate.
High-level trade talks between the U.S. and China are set to begin this Thursday, but there might already be a snag. This morning, Bloomberg reports Beijing is reluctant to agree to a broad trade deal. The report says China is not going to budge on a number of major demands from the Trump administration, including reforms to China's industrial policy.
Authorities in Southern California are investigating a series of explosions during an Oktoberfest celebration. Witnesses say 3 explosions rocked a restaurant in Huntington Beach, sending hundreds of people running. Officials say a transformer exploded. 2 firefighters and 3 other people were hurt.
Investigators are trying to determine how a woman without a ticket or an ID got onto a Delta Airlines flight that was about to take off from Orlando.
She was discovered when employees asked her for her ticket because she was in someone else's seat. The woman claimed she had thrown it away. Other passengers describe her behavior as erratic.
She was very laser focused on the back of the seat. She wouldn't make eye contact with anybody. And she kept repeating the same thing over and over again. And she kept yelling and yelling at me, cussing at me and threatening me.
What a strange but also a scary story. While other passengers had to be rescreened, the flight was delayed for 3 hours. Delta says it is cooperating with investigators.
Also developing right now, more than 100 people have died and thousands have been injured in anti-government protests in Iraq. Protesters are demanding more jobs and a crackdown on corruption. Government officials are pushing back against claims that security forces opened fire directly on demonstrators.
Here at home, talks between General Motors and the Auto Workers Union have hit a snag.
A union official tells striking workers the talks to end the strike have, quote, taken a turn for the worse. The union says the sticking point is job security, with the company going back to previous positions. The Detroit Free Press reports the bargaining has become more sour. 49,000 workers have been on strike for 3 weeks now.
We turn now to a mystery in Dallas, where a key witness in the recent murder trial of former police officer Amber Guyger has turned up dead. Joshua Brown was shot outside his apartment, and now a large reward is being offered in the case as we learn new information about Brown's past. This morning, an urgent investigation in Dallas as police search for the killer of 28-year-old Joshua Brown. He was shot just 10 days after testifying for the prosecution in the murder trial of former police officer Amber Guyger.
Please state your name for the record.
Joshua Brown.
Brown previously lived across the hall from Botham Jean and said they met for the first time on the day Jean was shot by Guyger.
Heard him singing every morning.
Okay, you heard him singing. What kind of things did you hear him sing?
Gospel music, Drake.
Guyger claimed she had mistakenly entered Jean's apartment and thought Jean was an intruder. She testified that she ordered him to show his hands. But on the stand, Brown appeared to contradict that testimony, saying he never heard the two interact.
Do you recall ever hearing someone say, "Hey, put your hands up," at a loud tone?
No, ma'am.
Dallas police say Brown was found in the parking lot Friday night outside his current home with multiple gunshot wounds to his lower body. Witnesses report a silver car leaving the scene. Meanwhile, this morning, our Dallas station WFAA is reporting Brown was also a victim of gun violence last November. After a fight at a strip club, another man was fatally shot and Brown was wounded. A suspect currently out on bond has been indicted in that case. But an attorney for Brown's family insists a possible link between Brown's murder and the Amber Guyger trial must be investigated.
He was shot and left to die by someone who clearly had an axe to grind. It is important that we answer who that person is, because right now there are strong implications, at least, no evidence, but strong implications that this may be retaliation for his testimony in the Amber Guyger trial.
A civil rights activist is now offering a $100,000 reward in the case. Overnight police insisted they have no suspects or motive.
Homeowners in Napa County, California have been put on alert about a fast-moving brush fire.
That fire in the town of American Canyon has consumed more than 500 acres, but so far 30% contained. And crews say the fire's forward progress has been stopped.
Well, you got to see this wild scene. This is at a hair salon on Long Island, and that is a deer crashing through the window. It hit that woman who was sitting on the couch there. She suffered minor injuries, and then the deer just ends up booking it before police could arrive. Not sure what police would have done or what it'd be charged with.
Yeah, but oh wow, I just caught the woman actually sitting on that couch, brushed by the legs of the deer.
Right by there. Oh, pointed out by Mark, our floor director, that we think she lost her coffee there too. Yeah, taking a sip.
Coffee?
Oh
yeah, coffee.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Just on all accounts.
So
unfortunate.
Scary, too.
All right, coming up, the surprising revelations from Elton John, what he says the Queen did right in front of him.
But first, the wife of a U.S. diplomat is accused of running down a British teenager on the street, then fleeing the country, claiming diplomatic immunity. The boy's parents want justice, but can anything be done? We turn now to the outrage overseas after a teenager on a motorcycle was killed in a car crash in England.
The suspect is the wife of a U.S. diplomat and has apparently fled the country claiming diplomatic immunity. And now the teen's parents are demanding she return to England. This morning, outrage is growing in England after a U.S. diplomat's wife left the country despite being a suspect in a deadly crash.
I was just utterly broken, inside and out. Everything hurts, day and night.
The parents of 19-year-old Harry Dunn are demanding justice after the diplomat's wife allegedly hit their son's motorcycle in August. The suspect left the country and is now claiming diplomatic immunity.
I can't believe she's living with herself doing this. How can you just be like that? Just get on a plane and go.
The 42-year-old suspect, who has not been named by police, was allegedly driving out of a U.S. Air Force base on the wrong side of the road. Police say she initially cooperated and even said she had no plans to leave England. The U.S. Embassy in London expressed their deepest sympathies and condolences to the family, saying cases like this are considered carefully, but immunity is rarely waived. The British Foreign Secretary is now urging the U.S. Embassy to reconsider, and Harry Dunn's family is appealing to President Trump, asking him to intervene and rescind the woman's immunity. That diplomat's wife had reportedly been in Britain for only 3 weeks before that crash. Well, a statement from the White House came in late last night saying the United States is going to step aside and allow Turkey to begin a military operation in northern Syria, where they'll be responsible for all captured ISIS fighters in the area. That's a move that's already been criticized for leaving key U.S. allies out in the cold. So, well, let's go across the pond now. Julia McFarland in our London bureau for more. Julia, good morning.
Morning, Trevor. Yeah, we're just getting in reports that US troops are beginning to withdraw from northern Syria. And that statement, as you say, last night from the White House, taking a lot of American allies by surprise. That statement coming in saying Turkey will soon be moving forward with its long-planned operation into northern Syria. The US armed forces will not support or be involved in the operation. And the US forces, having defeated the ISIS territorial caliphate, will no longer be in the immediate area. Now, this morning we've had some reaction from the Syrian Democratic Forces. Those are the Kurdish-led forces in northern Syria who have been occupying a lot of that area that is on the border to southern Turkey and northern Syria. They are not happy about this at all. They have said that recently they complied with a US request to withdraw from key strategic areas in northern Syria in exchange for security guarantees. Now, they say that this means that the Kurds in northern Syria, they are basically defenseless, and that this green light for the Turkish forces to move in basically amounts to death. And of course, the Kurds, they were key partners of the US for defeating ISIS, and they warn that a lot of the ISIS leadership hiding in the desert are likely to come back.
And Julia, now let's talk about Ukraine again in the news. This time about the president's plan to hold local elections in the nation's east, which is actually held by Russia-backed separatists, which is under fire by protesters who see the move as a major concession to Russia. A lot of people not happy about this.
Precisely, Elizabeth. President Zelensky, the new president of Ukraine, he's in a very difficult position here because this situation in eastern Ukraine is a conflict that's been going on for 5 years, and it's caused at least 13,000 deaths in that region. Basically, Ukrainians are fighting Russian-backed separatists in this simmering conflict that's been going on since 2014. Now, President Zelensky, he said that he has agreed for that rest of region to hold elections. He's trying to work together with the separatists, with Russia and France and Germany on an upcoming peace summit. And he says that his priority is for the region to cease the fighting and to come to some sort of agreement, and that these elections are key. However, tens of thousands, around 15,000 people, officials have said, have gathered in Kiev protesting this move. A lot of them are military veterans from that conflict, and they say, as you said, that this is kowtowing to the Russians, who are basically hoping to annex that part of Ukraine, just like they did with Crimea back in 2014.
Well, listen, Julia, you know, we know these are complicated geopolitical relationships, and we appreciate you going through all the effort to keep us informed, because it's a lot to juggle, but we do like to get a little salacious, of course, while we have you. We know some royal tea has been spilled this morning from Sir Elton John, who says the Queen slapped her nephew in front of him. What's going on?
What?
Yeah, this story is probably going to raise a few eyebrows in the palace. Sir Elton John sort of, let's say, sort of blabbing about some private, meetings or, well, a little party basically with the Queen and Viscount Linley, who is the son of Princess Margaret, the Queen's younger sister. Now, he has got this new autobiography coming out, and he's indulged in a little detail that he's had spending some time with the royal family. He claims that he saw the Queen scolding her nephew, saying, "Don't argue with me, I am the Queen." In his autobiography, the excerpt reads, "I saw her approach Viscount Linley and asked him to look in on his sister who'd been taken ill. When he repeatedly tried to fob her off, the Queen lightly slapped him across the face, saying, 'Don't slap, argue, slap with, slap me, slap, I slap, am, slap the Queen.'" Now, he said that seemed to do the trick. As he left, she saw me staring at her, gave me a wink, and then walked off.
That would work on me.
Well. I was just going to say that story, but also your reenactment.
Yeah, was that a bit of an impression of the
I
Queen?
literally, It's verbatim. It's quite like, you know, when you try to sort of imagine the Queen, sort of, I mean, obviously the royal family, they are a family, and they're a very, you know, they're a tight-knit family. You know, it's not like they can go out and have normal family activities out in the public eye. So, but I think it's interesting. And, you know, last week, actually, Scotland, where a lot of the Queen's family are from, where her mother is from, they have now just banned smacking children. It's now illegal to slap your child in Scotland. So it's quite an interesting timing for this.
Do the laws apply to the Queen? That is my ignorant American question of the day.
No. Law does not apply to the Queen. She is above the law because she is the law, if that makes sense.
That's right.
Ooh, there you have it.
I think that's on the formal crest.
Yes.
Right. Julia McFarlane over for us in our London Bureau. Julia, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you. Well, let's check now our notifications, starting with a big winner. Get a load of this. Pumpkin that won the 2019 Topsfield Fair Giant Pumpkin Weigh-In in Massachusetts. It weighs 2,290 pounds.
And speaking of pumpkins, contestants showed off their jack-o'-lantern carving skills under the sea in the Florida Keys. About 20 scuba divers went 30 feet below the surface in Key Largo. They took part in an underwater pumpkin carving contest. The winners were 2 women from Michigan. They earned a free dive trip at 2 Key Largo resorts. So listen. Obviously you're pretty, this means a lot to you if you travel from Michigan for the contest. Most of those look pretty good. I don't know what that one in the middle of the screen is supposed to be. That kind of just looks like an open hole. That one maybe fell apart a little bit.
I don't know that I can do that on my porch or in my kitchen, but underwater, that is impressive.
Yeah, no, those are good efforts.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. They deserve our praise and not our ridicule.
I know.
But this brings us to the question of the day. So we're getting ready for Halloween. Some people are already looking past it. They're already looking to Thanksgiving. They're looking to Christmas. No, I'm not even looking to Halloween yet. But we want to know how early is too early to start decorating for the holidays, because we know that a survey was done that said 43% of people said it was fine if you start setting up for the holidays before November 1st, which is, it just seems like a lot. But listen, you can do whatever you want in the comfort of your own home.
I was just going to say, we don't judge here.
I think that's fine. If you start bringing it out into the public is where I think we have to draw the line. If you're out and your windows are down and you're blaring the Christmas music, I think that's a bridge too far.
Well, I was just going to say, it might be a little too early for us, but again...
Yeah. People can like what they like.
Yes.
You can celebrate Christmas whenever you want.
Let's move on to another good news story. We're getting a look at former President Jimmy Carter this morning, just hours after he fell at his home in Georgia and went to the hospital. He was on stage at an event in Tennessee.
They took 14 stitches in my forehead, and my eye's black, as you noticed. But I had a #1 priority, and that was to come to Nashville to build houses.
This morning, former President Jimmy Carter is showing just how tough he is at 95, standing with his wife of 73 years, Rosalind. He described the Sunday morning fall at his home in Plains, Georgia.
And I fell down and hit my forehead on a sharp edge and had to go to the hospital.
The Atlanta Braves hat covering those 14 stitches and black eye, injuries that did not keep Carter from the event in Nashville for one of his favorite causes, his 36th home building project for Habitat for Humanity. The Carters were introduced at the event by Trisha Yearwood and Garth Brooks, friends and fellow Habitat volunteers. The 39th president even throwing a little shade at his pal Garth.
I have seen them work all day, every day, without stopping. I've seen Trish on a skeleton of a house, on a rafter, on her back, hammering, if you can believe that. So,
while Garth watched her.
Mr. Carter's sense of humor and love of volunteering not diminished by recent health battles. He survived a dire cancer diagnosis in 2015 and has had some trouble walking since a hip replacement in May. But he regularly teaches Sunday school and has been visiting with 2020 presidential candidates. Carter turned 95 last Tuesday, becoming the first president to reach that milestone, and we wish him a very speedy recovery.
Coming up, we've got a look at what's to come in the day ahead.
Plus, the giant leap setting the bar for a marching band performance, paying tribute to the Apollo 11 mission after this.
Well, here's what to watch out for today. President Trump is scheduled to have lunch with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo before meeting with senior military leaders and participating in a social dinner with the leaders and their spouses.
Major issues are on the agenda for the Supreme Court term that begins today. They include discrimination against LGBTQ workers, a gun rights case, and abortion. The justices may also be drawn into the impeachment controversy.
Deputy Secretary of State George Kent is scheduled to testify before House committees about the president's call to the Ukrainian president. And Nobel Prize Week begins as the awards for physiology or medicine are due to be announced today. Nobel Prizes for physics, chemistry, and literature will be announced as the week goes on, culminating with the Nobel Peace Prize to be announced on Friday.
Plus, don't forget to tune in to The Debrief for an update on all our top stories and the briefing room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics.
Finally, in college football, Ohio State's moved up to third place in the AP poll, but what people are really talking about is the band.
And can you blame them? Take a look at this. The Ohio State University Marching Band managed a synchronized tribute to the first moon landing. Band members played out the space race, starting as American and Soviet rockets.
And then they showed Apollo 11 in the launching pad. They even had the engine exhaust there. You can see as it's launching. And from there, they formed the lunar module before finishing, of course, with the American flag being planted on the moon.
I love how it's like they did this, and then they did this, and then look at that.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder when you see bands like this that are like that synchronized, it makes you like feel bad about society. Like how they're so organized, and it's like, okay, well, human beings can follow directions this well.
I know.
And yet we have all the troubles that we have.
Oh, wow.
I think you could.
Well, coordination.
Did you play an instrument?
I played sports. Does that count?
No.
I love that you're like, you played sports. I really did.
I believe you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What
I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah?
Track?
I did, but
Volleyball?
I played field hockey and lacrosse.
Field hockey and lacrosse.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Were you in a band? Marching band?
No, I was not.
No. Play sports?
Also, yes.
Basketball.
And what a surprise. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so we might have, in theory, have coordination.
Yeah, but not like that. No, we don't. We don't have. It's cutthroat to get on the Ohio State marching band. I know that for sure. It's like
you're from Ohio.
It's elite. Yes. And so, like my high school had one guy that got on the Ohio State marching band, and it was like a big thing at the high school that they made the band.
I mean, they're very good, so I believe it.
Yes, top quality.
Yes.
Thanks for watching our show.
Yes.
We're sorry we had all that information about the Ohio State marching band, but the video was at least cool, right?
Absolutely.
It's a good way to start your Monday. Everybody have a great day.